Okay, so welcome to all who have joined us for this particular session, and we are entering into a discussion with Edwin. So, Edwin, I hope that I am pronouncing your name right.
Good to go.
Good to go. Okay. All right. So why with this particular event is there because we as Wisdom Seed we are prioritizing mental wellness at the workplace. Everybody is tired of listening to this struggle with burnout, stress, and anxiety, and I felt that we need to discuss this particular topic with the person who is addressing and making the change within the corporate area. So, with me, I have Mr. Edwin A. Jewell, who is a senior manager with Anubavam Technology, and he is a people developer senior manager. And he has a vast experience in HR domain from past 15 years, I guess, Edwin.
Yes.
All right. So Edwin has worked with multiple corporations and he has a certain kind of wisdom in terms of how this particular strategizing in that particular environment would be done. So we have talked about a lot on this channel about how leadership and how mental wellness can be one of the cornerstone for entire organization to propel into a more productive, a more stable, and a physically safe environment. So we will start this particular session with a certain kind of statistic that I want to pull in, that what is the mental issues and the state of mental issues right now in India. So as per as the Deloitte report of 2022, it has found that 80% of Indian workforce report an experiential mental health issue in the past year. So from like post-COVID, if you take that era of 3 to 4 years, we are experiencing 80% of Indian workforce is experiencing some kind of mental stress issue. So there is also one more report by Economic Survey of 2024 that citing that with the National Mental Health Survey of 25 and 2015, it says that we have a staggering 10.6% of Indian adults who are suffering from mental disorders. So this translates to significant portion of workforce potentially struggling with mental health issue. And the major contributor, which the Deloitte study has pinpointed that 47% of professionals consider work-related stress as the biggest factor affecting their mental health. So it is more than 50% or about to 50% of people, they think that work-related stress and the stresses that are created into workplace are really affecting their mental health. The economic survey also actually goes in that range that 70 to 90% of the different disorders, those are untapped, unsurveyed, or those are not recognized, and they are not able to bring into the umbrella of mental health issues. So that is one other thing that we are dealing with. And the NMH's report shows that there's a higher prevalence in mental morbidity in urban region comparing to the rural region, because that is far more evident because most of the corporate uh, companies are into urban areas, and the kind of lifestyle that we are exposed to, these stressors are really making a lot of way into our life, and that's why the mental health issues that are being suffered from more than 50% people in our workforce. So, Edwin, if I want to talk about, and if I just want to catapult into this particular scenario where we can see that we are actually looking at the elephant sitting in the room. So that is one of the most major issue, and I know that as an HR, we are battling lots of battle. There is attrition that is going on. There is no development, progress, and the retention of the training programs that we are putting into. We see that those activities have just been one checklist part. So now, with that, I think the foundation that we have able to find that that mental health issues are actually making this is a kind of symptoms, higher attrition rate, lower engagement. It is all somewhere related to mental issues. So when you see yourself working in this kind of an environment, which is a very volatile environment, and when people are there, it becomes more dynamic. So in your journey of mental wellness, the first question that comes in that how you see HR leader prioritizing mental wellness.
You have hit the nail on the coffins because there are a lot of data.
Yeah.
See, first thing is people are not ready to accept the data because data
Hmm.
talks the truth. So
Right.
first thing is we accepting we are having a
Hmm.
problem. So
Right.
we have now rung the bell and say who will ring the cat or who will ring the bell in the
Who will
house.
tie the bell in the cat? Yeah. I know that
Yeah.
that's the
So
major
we
issue.
So, see, I'll take you from the context of the HR's journey as well.
Hmm.
So, when we looked at the industrial revolution, the HR's landscape has also changed. In we looked at like the HR was only as a personal manager.
Hmm.
From there, slowly the transition into like a HR, which was into training and then into HR development. Then
Right.
recent years we have shifted as human capital management (HCM). Now from there, now the transition of a HR is not only the capital management, but he is also a part of the business. So
Right.
he has become HX, human
Hmm.
experience.
Hmm.
What kind of experience he can give to all the stakeholders.
Right.
So as a HR person and as a person who is partnering with the business for the organization,
Hmm.
the HR leaders have to prioritize mental wellness by building supportive infrastructure,
Right.
including mental health benefits, then regular check-ins. Then we can also incorporate stress management programs
Right.
instead of having only engagement programs. We can look at stress management programs. Then training the managers is very critical
Very
in
true.
order they identify and handle mental health issues,
Hmm.
like a posh committee being very critical for an organization. A mental well-being committee also needs to be incorporated in every organization to look at the engagement and the stress levels,
Very
so
true.
that embedding wellness into the corporate values also ensures employees being supported.
Right. Right. So,
Earlier we will look at like
huh.
roti kapda and makan.
Yeah.
Now the wellness has also needs to come in.
Very true. Very true. I think that is the foundation of any workplace environment and getting them as safe as psychologically a safe environment that is there for the employees. The second thing that I want to come in that is our HR leader, uh, are they really aware of the fact that there is a Mental Health Care Act 2017 that is into frame? Have you ever come across this particular idea?
No, it is the need of the hour
Right.
because in India
Hmm.
we compromise quality with the pricing.
Right.
We want a better service, but at
Hmm.
a very less commercial rate.
Right.
So imbibing this kind of activity becomes a challenge for the organization. So
Right.
setting aside as an act is very
Hmm.
critical because it comes as an enforcement.
Right.
But I'll give you examples wherein huge corporations like Tata, Reliance, they have been part of the industry and they have been worked a lot for their employee welfare. They were the ones who had incorporated regulations so that everyone is complying with.
Hmm.
And now every organization it becomes critical for them to ensure that talent management is also looked into.
Very true.
Now the talent management, our younger generation, our generation Z and generation Alpha, which is going to come into the scenario, they are looking at wellness initiatives,
Very true.
what is there for them,
Hmm.
and how they can give back to the society.
Right. Great. So I think we have a recent listener who have joined in. Jiva, welcome on the discussion board. So we were discussing about the mental wellness issues that are faced into corporate, and that was the major theme wherein Edwin is trying to understand, trying to make us explain that how HR role is making a significant contribution. So when I talked about Edwin, Mental Health Care Act 2017, that is already there. It has been already been rolled out. The only thing is that the entire integration of that act, wherein the act emphasizes that the insurance scheme that as an HR role which we onboard supposed to have this element of mental wellness, wherein it include counseling sessions that can be subsidized to a certain region. Even our IT Act also incorporate those kind of expenses under, I think, Section 1724A4, which actually incurs any expenses or medical treatment, including mental wellness counseling, and that is tax exempted. So, as an HR, we have to understand that are we incorporating those, acts and any act provision that is there into our CTC structure and compensation structure, or can we make them as a part of our policies? Because it's very important, because we talk the talk, we have town halls, we leaders come along on the town hall, they talk about this, but the integration of that particular policy and the administration, the mechanism towards it. So while studying this, I felt that we are unhinged from, we don't have any support from our government, but government is actually working on those lines. It is only the readiness of the corporate as a whole, as the intention of the leadership is what where the gap is. So when you see as a leader, HR leader, where do you feel that this particular gap is widened, or what are the challenges that we are as an HR head and as in coming from the same fraternity, because the leadership buy-in is really important. So, what do you think? What kind of, because we have HR leaders who would be listening to this particular event after the recording is going on the in the social media. So, what kind of advice you would give them that these are the challenges to get the leadership buy-in and incorporation of those particular act which are already there?
See, government is also doing on their front end to ensure at least the basic needs are being taken care.
Hmm.
The basic hygiene thing, like your compliance related. I'll take example like PF and
Hmm.
ESIC. Likewise, they have also incorporated insurance plans. They
Right.
also incorporated few basic safety hygiene
Hmm.
programs for corporations, which we need to comply
Right.
by mandatory. But
Hmm.
are we looking at only handling the basic hygiene, or should we go above that?
Right.
That is, the leader has to go.
Hmm.
So a leader has to lead by example.
Very true.
So I think every organization in town halls, they need to incorporate like wellness journeys, then how we
Mm-hmm.
can practice work life balance.
Very true.
And we have to accept the vulnerabilities which
Mm-hmm.
each employee is showcasing. See, once
Right.
you accept that, we are being open towards their mental health, and
Mm-hmm.
we are breaking the barriers.
Right.
See, now you and me are interacting because we know each other, or we have been in that comfort zone. So the
Right.
same comfort zone has to be given to each employees from the employer perspective, and from
Mm-hmm.
every stakeholder has to come in.
Right.
The buy-in has to be from the leadership because it has
Mm-hmm.
to be a top-down approach.
Mm-hmm.
But the enforcement and everything, every departmental heads has to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And as a HR fraternity, from the HR fraternity,
Right.
we have to ensure we are
Right.
facilitating this change.
Right. But I
The
think,
journey has just started.
yeah, just I think the awareness has just started, because I think we are dealing with the symptoms. I know there was a lot of roar in social media where Anna Sebastian case has surfaced out, but this was one of the many cases that are there under brewing. It is just that it got a certain kind of coverage and people were sensitive enough, and everybody is going through the same blaze. I think HR has really have a bigger responsibility to shoulder in this particular scenario, wherein they have to look into that we are not only restricting ourselves to someone who is identified as Rangoli makers. So that is something that I feel like is
We have been
yeah, is a stigma, that
stereotyped.
taboo that we have to break in. And as an HR leadership, we have to see that are we really going to the next step of our I think the developmental phase of an HR as well, or the evolution phase that is there. So when I see myself as a part of the fraternity who has working into HR domain, and now I'm really advocating mental wellness to be one of the most essential cornerstone as a part of productivity, because it is going to be a productive investment that and leadership has to take a consideration, because we have to change the entire approach and attitude toward this problem. I would say challenge more of it. The problem is not that it's more of a challenge, and there are a lot of loopholes that we are going to address. So while Edwin, you are working with this as an HR. do you say how stigmatized workforce are, like when it comes to leadership and workforce? So how stigmatized it is, like how you see mental wellness when you have gone and talked to people or employees, how much of awareness is there?
Okay. So I can look at like relating to the previous question itself. The leaders also needs to promote policies which will reduce like overwork, foster trust, and employees having access to wellness programs.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, the leaders also need to support the employees in a non-judgmental manner.
Very true.
I'll give you an example. Is like you have your assessments every year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your performance appraisals every year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a self assessment, then there's a TL assessment, the
Right.
head assessment, and then a peer review if you're looking at a 360-degree evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
We have accessibilities to individuals, but do
Right.
we respect their privacy, and
Mm-hmm.
do we give a cohesive environment for them to come up to us?
Mm-hmm.
That's a challenge we are facing.
Right.
And another thing is acceptance.
Right.
Like 10 years 15 years back, if you look at people who saying I have a mental problem, or I have a wellness issue, or
Mm-hmm.
the people take it in the wrong way. Now the people
Very
have
true.
also come in and started
Mm-hmm.
accepting this also is a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be sorted out. It's not only
Right.
the psychotic thing or anything, but people have come to the acceptance level, like people do have challenges, and we are
Mm-hmm.
accepting the challenge, and we are
Mm-hmm.
accepting the issue.
Right.
We have just started accepting the issues.
Right.
And being HR, we talk a lot about diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
And this mental wellness also comes on
Right.
board with to that, saying accepting people from different backgrounds
Right.
and different states of the thing.
Very
And
true.
I would take it like this mental wellness program should be initiated from the beginning. The first
Mm-hmm.
touch point for anyone is the part of the onboarding journey,
Right.
and how the new hires can be imbibed into the organization's
Mm-hmm.
mental health resource or policies or support system. I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you best example is for our current organization. I work with Anubavam. Our tagline itself is applying experience.
Mm-hmm.
So during the COVID period, we had incorporated Practo provision for all of our employees. So
Right.
they have an online consulting mode. And
Mm-hmm.
over the years now, we have also incorporated mental health related provisions where people can go and talk.
Oh,
At
great.
least we made a start point to
Mm-hmm.
accepting if anybody has a challenge, they can come in. See, HR is approachable, TL is approachable. Are they comfortable talking to us?
Very true.
It's a question mark. So
Right.
we have made a provision, at least like people
Mm-hmm.
can go and have a word. At least a
Great.
provision.
Okay.
I'm not saying we have done something great, but at least we started
Mm.
putting some provision for people to for approachability for people.
Mm-hmm. Great, great. So I think so. These it's as you rightly said that there is a lot of inclusion to happen, but when the inclusion or when we promote inclusion into a public sphere, are we really doing it as a kind of a checklist activity, or do we have a policy in place? That is one thing that has to be very much, I think, discussed. A policy has to be designed around it. I think the environment that is required to accept it, because it is always said before receiving anything, you have to see what is your capacity of receiving it or not. So, for example, if we are having inclusionness for handicap employees, are we really making an infrastructural, changes, or are we facilitating their mobility, or the washroom facilities? So
Uh,
all those things. So it
the
also come
best
up with,
example,
yeah,
you touched the best point over there.
yeah.
See,
So
we talk about
yeah,
inclusivity for people who are
hmm,
differently abled or physically challenged, but do we
hmm,
make a provision for the rally? Yeah,
right, hmm,
so that becomes a challenge. Yes.
right. So that's where when mental wellness would also become a infrastructural and the procedural activity, because it has to bring into practice. what I feel like, if we don't have any kind of the share groups, as you talked about earlier, that we have to prepare our managers, we have to train them to understand what are the telltale signs of mental illness in the primary stage of an employee. There is an increased absenteeism, there is increased presenteeism, I would say, there is an ostracization of any employees that are there. So are we making those kind of mindset change? Because as you said, that when we include somebody, like I've given you example of an handicapped person has to be included into our office, we have to make an infrastructural changes. When we are including any other people who are from different background, different I say gender, or even women coming after a maternity break, so there are n number of things. So if we see that particular light, okay, and are we mentally preparing ourselves, the management itself, the workers itself, and the system itself, to absorb those people and give them a kind of a breather and a safe place to perform well. So that is one thing that you have rightly addressed, that yes, inclusivity has to be made it as a policy part and a practical part, not just saying that as a checklist activity. So that was one there. So coming to the next question that I want to ask is like, have you come across any kind of challenges in past which were addressed, only that mental wellness, or any training that was taken? For example, if I want to give my example, a POSH related training and awareness has been a classic example to break that particular a solid patriarchal mindset that is there into the corporate. So you would always see that women are progressing leaders, they are getting into leadership, and uh, because through POSH, I think there was a lot of patriarchal mindset uh, dilution that has been happened when awareness programs were there. So this was one take that I had in my organization that actually started a conversation, because I think entire tabooed topics that are there require, the first thing is to create a conversation. And once the conversation has been initiated, then we can introduce our policies and how managements buy in are there. But I think the conversation is more important. So I want to understand which are the situations that you have faced in your current and past role where you have pushed in mental wellness as one of the initiative.
See, mental wellness will directly impact the organization's productivity, engagement, and retention. Because
Hmm.
a positive work culture is very critical, and HR plays a role in that. So,
Hmm.
as you rightly said, first thing is the conversations part, how we can incorporate. Like, classic example I can give is like, we have buddy system wherein
Right.
part of the onboarding, where people are given like the to do person or a to help person. Instead of going to the team, he'll be a support team for ensuring the 30 or a 60 or 90 days check-in pulse is clearly facilitated for a new
Hmm.
person. So I had concerns, like I have also worked in development sector, where we talk about ensuring we are giving back to the society and everything. But we had one of our beneficiaries who were from the third gender.
Hmm.
They had to come to our office for accepting the prize and the documentation and everything. We say we are open, we are diverse, but we face challenge because when the person had come to the office, the acceptance from the employees
Yes.
was very critical. See, लिखने के लिए तो लिख दिया है भाई, we are
Hmm.
diversity, we are inclusion, everything we say on the papers. But
Very true.
are we creating an environment where the internal employees are trained to ensure they can facilitate those acceptance?
Hmm.
Now we talk about the inclusion of the third gender. Now we
Hmm.
are looking at impact of the same sex marriage. Are
Right.
we accepting it?
Right.
See, it's a taboo topics.
Hmm.
I know it will take some more time for acceptance and everything, but at least, like you said, we are at least progressing towards having a dialogue to it, having a voice to it.
Right.
So likewise, mental wellness also has to be put in,
Hmm.
and I think HR has to also establish
Mm-hmm.
mental health champions
Right. Yes.
in the
Mm.
it's like your injections, what not injections, I'll say it's like your booster shots.
Right.
We took two COVID
Booster sauce.
shot, and then
Yeah.
we took a booster. So
Yeah.
like that, in the
Mm-hmm.
organization we would require this mental health champions who
Right.
will be within the team, looking at
Mm-hmm.
we can do like any no meeting Fridays or something, where the
Right.
talk can be only about the culture and how it is there.
Right.
Or you can also have an open dialogue about how is your personal life going.
Mm-hmm.
Now the challenge is that with the COVID in place and work from home environment, there is
Mm-hmm.
very little demarcation between the personal and professional environment.
Right.
So once there is the shift over
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the thing, the
Right.
flexibility has taken a toll.
Right.
And then incorporating wellness breaks and mental health days becomes a challenge.
Very true. Very true. Rightly said. I think,
We,
Edwin, that is a profound way of looking towards it because very few of us develop that kind of understanding that mental wellness is beyond stress, stress management workshop, beyond mental wellness day celebration part. And it is very important that we are doing this session in the month of October because it is called as International Mental Health Day that would be coming on 10th of October. And there are a lot of stigma that has been attached to this because we just take it as a checklist box. We don't integrate that as a part of our healthy work environment. Because, as you said rightly, we need a booster because the viruses are also developing by side. The kind of mental illnesses are having different ways and different types of illnesses that are there. There are 43 ways of mental illnesses recognized till now. So that is related to your entire the cognitive errors that are there, any kind of genetic dispositions are there, any kind of past life, past generational traumas. Now that has been a new study that has been there that we as a person also carry a past or genetic trauma. So we carry certain traumas from our generations. I think I've lost my videos in between, but I think the audio is there.
yes,
Okay,
yes,
so I will
yes.
just continue. So, with that particular part, I think we have to also look into this particular factor that are we really making those particular issues as a part of an integral part into our what I can say, the policy part? Because we have seen so much of only talks happening on those particular topics, but not an concrete way of looking towards it. So booster shots are really required. As you said, manager has to be trained on that. We have to see in that are we facilitating a common ground where we people can come and talk over that, are we really making sure that are we when we say inclusion, so when we are saying inclusion, when we are hiring let's say any person who is different from our normal norms of male and female, when we are in binaries, one or two, one or zero, are we really looking at any point 2, point 3, or point 5 version of it? So that is really important, Edwin. I think that is where a leadership has to really think on when HR is considered as the cornerstone. When we say HRBP, business partnering, we also have to say, are we really partnering with people as well? Are we really partnering with people to enhance their mental wellness? And it won't be only policies, it has to be a kind of a connection where trust and credibility is established. So, rightly said, I think there are a number of things that would be coming out of this particular discussion. And one of those is, are we creating that environment through policies? Like, as you said, there has to be breaks, mental breaks. That is really important because we give them sickness break, and in China, there was one policy that was been established. I think it was one of the e-commerce business which has given 21 days paid leave as a wellness, mental wellness leave. So sometimes we feel like I'm not mentally well. I might be facing some issues at my family end. I am having some relationship crisis. And with the generation Z and Y which are coming in, they would be having frequent breakups. We did have a commitment level, but I think that is how things are evolving. And are we including them into a mental wellness break as well? It is not about only breakup, but it would be also a nervousness because of the heavy competition and the change in the learning environments that are there. Because right now we can see that a career shift is happening every 10 years. We will have three career shifts in every 10 years because of the development of AI. Because as we see, AI is evolving, and when I say career development or career changes, it is not like we shifting as an HR to a different company. No, we as an HR, we would be doing a different job altogether. We would be HR and, let's say, mental wellness coach, HR and a financial advisor, HR and a something else. So that is where we are getting into. So we have to learn and unlearn. So that is also one of the stress that is going on. So I've talked a lot on that. I want to know
No,
about your view on how these things are, reflected into the real world, where you, as an HR and people development leader, how you see this as a challenge.
I'll talk about my personal journey.
Right.
Born in Nagarkoil,
Mm,
it's one southern tip of Tamil Nadu, but my dad was with the government services. So I did my schooling in Delhi and Mumbai.
mm,
I'm an engineering graduate, and I've done my MBA in human resource. My
right.
engineering is from Tirunelveli.
Hmm.
That's like your tier two or tier three city.
Right.
And then I did, and then like in my 15 years, more than 12 years of experience has been in Mumbai, and my
Hmm.
3 years currently I'm based out of Chennai. So a person from a South India, brought up in a North Indian or a West Indian culture,
Hmm.
shifting back to the root itself is a cultural challenge.
Mm,
So there itself there is a issue. I'll not say issue, acceptance, the cultural change.
right.
That's one kind of a challenge I faced on a personal level. And then the pattern of people, the acceptance of people in Mumbai or in Delhi, you can see the vibe is different. That's
Hmm.
in Chennai, the vibe is different.
Right.
So there's a cultural difference. You have to relate health with your physic, not only your physical, but your mental and your social well-being. So
Right.
has been an impact on that. The
Hmm.
shift was required,
Right.
but are we looking at a forced
Hmm.
shipping out of place or something? And
Hmm.
another thing, like you touch based on the development thing from the HR perspective. I In my 15 years, the 3 years I've been with my current organization, but previous to that I had jumped.
Hmm.
So people usually call me as a career hopper, because because when a traditional
Mm,
HR looks at my profile, he'll be like, this guy doesn't have a stability.
right.
So the HR's mindset also has to evolve, like you
Right.
said, learn, unlearn, and relearn towards
Right.
accepting people who are coming from a career break.
Right.
Our HR usually is being tormented, saying boss, the HR is a reactive person. But now
Hmm.
we have to come out of that nutshell towards HR being a proactive leader in the
Very,
organization.
very rightly said. Very rightly said.
Now
Yeah.
with that, we are
Mm,
looking at, like, my dad was with the same government organization from hire to retire.
mm,
Yes, generation X and Y and Z, we have shifted to
right.
different places depending on our acceptance. Now,
Hmm.
for my father, one skill was enough for the lifetime.
Yes. Mm,
For me, I had to do my engineering, then I have to do my MBA.
right.
So there are two or three skills being added up.
Very
So now
true.
for the next generation, with AI and everything coming in, they have to keep on upskilling themselves. So
Very
there is
true.
a stress being brought about. You rightly said. So there's a stress being brought about to always be on the top.
Very true. Mm,
And our current generation is of the vibe saying we want instant gratification.
very true.
That also becomes as a challenge to foster how are we handling our emotion.
Hmm.
So the HR also has to play different multiple hats, like a financial coach, a financial well-being, a
Right.
emotional coach.
Right.
And I'll correlate it to our father of modern HR, Dave Ulrich's model:
Mm,
change agent, employee champion, a administrative person, and a strategic person. So
Right.
all this hat has to be worn by a HR.
Right.
But
I
end
do
of the day,
understand.
HR is also trust.
I can actually understand the dilemma that you and most of the HR fraternity that it goes under. They have to have multiple hats, and at the speed of changing those hat and perspective and coming up with the solution is right now coming at the near to light speed. I think because every person
Exactly.
and generation X and Y are looking at every human interaction as an equivalent of app. So how
Yes.
fast an app react and give me output, they want people and resolution also of that sort. That's how impulsive today's generation has become. And the thing is, there is not a direct blaming of this particular generation. They have been raised in that environment, and I always say that a human being is the product of his or her environment. So they are being breed, yeah, they are and breed in such kind of environment that makes them what they are right now. And we as an HR, as you rightly said, that we have to keep on evolving within our roles in different aspects. And I can see that not all of the HR can do it with that particular efficiency. This is where when it comes to mental wellness, Wisdom Seed has become one of those organization which actually talks about how we can formulate policy. That we would have an EAP, that is employee assessment programs, which will say that we'll have programs for their financial literacy, how the financial planning has been done, how health, physical health, how diets. How lifestyle changes can actually affect on your mental health, and if that is also not affecting, then we have an one-on-one counseling. We have mental resilience training sessions or workshops, which are given to which are directly targeted to people who are working into a high pressure jobs. Because there are in organization itself, we have certain high pressure jobs. Let's say finance, operation, sales and marketing. There are high pressure jobs, and there are high pressure departments. It's HR can be a little bit chillax, as we everybody knows, like knows in the sense they have the perception that it is one of the most chill department. They just have to go and do all those things that are administered. But we know how HR have to react. As you said, we have to be very dynamic. And EAPs are very much administered into European countries and US, wherever we can see. They have very relentless in terms of in application of those particular policies. But in India, I think we are so diverse. We coming from such a diverse environment, diverse values, diverse upbringing. We have to all HR fraternity had to sit and actually talk to the employees who are there rather than just copy pasting what is there into Western philosophy and concept. We have to really twig it to the dynamics of the organization itself. As you said, that I have to go back as an HR, I have to see what is the dynamic, what is the makeup of my working class over here, which kind of program can be applied, or which are the things that when we can apply as a mental health environment. So this is where HR poses a very bigger challenge. Apart from our different hats, when it comes to mental wellness, we have so much of nuances that if we talked about every nuances, would be one intervention that we would have to develop. So that is what the beauty of HR is, and it is like the challenge that it is there in Indian markets when it comes to making an environment which is psychologically safe for everybody. And I feel that the coming times is going to be as an HR would be more challenging in terms of how mental strategies are prepared, how mental wellness strategies are prepared within the organization to attract, retain, and develop in particular talent in our organization. Because compensation is going to be same altogether. Compensation, if we talk about like 70 to 80% is the same requirement that is there. But what would make different for an organization, or we already know on LinkedIn there is a lot of codes that run around that most of the people change their job because of their bosses. And definitely your boss is composite of that 70% who is suffering from mental illness. So we are already ill. We are working in an ill environment. So we have to start somewhere. This particular initiative from HR fraternity is very much required. So, being in HR, you have to be very much trained into understanding what are the psychological illness, what are the the first what I can say, the signs and the symptoms that are being arised into our workforce, which we can catch it there and there, and we can progress, and we can make a certain kind of intervention or filters that can actually catch those particular people, or even we have to go back and see in that is our workload, the JDs that have been designed. Most of us, we don't operate on JDs, but we have to see in that, are we really making that relationship? Because JD has to reflect that what kind of scope and how much of workload has to be given to a particular employee. In manufacturing, it is very much well defined. 8 hours of work, then you have 15 units that you have to prepare, and then you will have, after 40 minutes, you will have certain breaks. But when it comes to a mental or cognitive related work, the lines are really blurred. We don't know when the breaks has to be invented, when how much of cognitive load this particular task could have, what kind of support that particular person would require. So all these elements that are actually contributing to the mental load that is there. So we have to really scientifically design those particular aspects. So there is a lot of theory, a lot of study that is going on, and I feel you have rightly pulled on that particular. Because why I'm able to share that, because you are able to pull those particular information, because it is very difficult for people to associate with those particular problem. Because we say that, Array, I have given task to this particular person, we never realize that how much of cognitive load, what kind of support he requires, and we really have a very bland eyes towards it. We just have that application kind of expectation from a person. Okay, I click on this particular button, result has to pop out. So that is where the mindset has to change. So your thoughts on this,
People,
Edwin? I think I have spoke a lot.
no, no, perfectly fine. That's the vibe we have, so that
Right,
you can come out openly. So that's perfectly
right,
fine. And I'll say HRs are very good facilitators for
right,
making the other person say.
right. But if we are not, we
So
have to adopt those skills.
adopt the things
Yeah.
absolutely. And see, I'll take your point over here is
Hmm.
like people have taken everybody as a machine.
Right.
So the wear and tear maintenance. See, I worked with Thyrocare, being my first organization as a
Hmm.
engineer, as a maintenance engineer. So we used to take care of the machineries before the next load of testing. The
Hmm.
testing samples are being taken into. So there was
Right.
a maintenance being done. So
Hmm.
those maintenance is our breaks,
Hmm.
which every human has. And
Right.
what we have done is, for pleasing our HODs or pleasing other people, we have given that people pleasing personality, we have made it. And then what has happened is the elastic has got stretched and stretched, and now it has gone to the extent where it can't break, or it doesn't want to break. So with that perspective, people have taken a lot of load which they cannot accept it. They have been
Hmm.
shelved out with so much of pressure from the inside that they are not able to take it out. They take it on their personal family or something, and then that, like you rightly said, a lot of relationship issues are happening because there's a stress from some other place, but that's reaction is happening on somebody else. And another thing is like people treating each other like a machine. They're looking at individuals like input. There's a process, why there is no output coming in.
Hmm.
That is also a challenge. This is, like you rightly said, our environment, our upbringing, and our social ethos.
Right.
For any organization, if they start, usually they will go for a pestle or a, earlier it was called as pestle, now you're looking at steeple and lot of things being added into, like social, economic,
Hmm.
political, technology, then legal. So that kind of an analysis is done in when we start a business. So
Hmm.
likewise, each individual also need to look at how the organization is pertaining themselves in the public forum. That's about
Right.
the employee value proposition which the HRs has to bring in for
Hmm.
ensuring there is talent attraction, talent retention, and also about the talent management when you are
True.
looking at a better talent to be with the organization.
Very true.
Now another challenge I'll take it over here is, earlier, I'm very fortunate to say, I come from a generation where I've seen your pager,
Yeah.
then your mobile.
Right.
Okay, and from pager to mobile, I've seen the transition from it, cassette rack, a cassette player,
Same here.
then you have a Walkman,
Yeah.
a single audio Walkman, then you
Yes.
have a
Discman.
CD Discman.
Discman. Yeah.
You had a walkie also,
Right.
a walkie kind of thing, and then there's a single CD player. From
Right.
the single CD player, we shifted to a video player. In between, the transition was from a VCR,
Mm-hmm. I don't remember.
VCR to the CD, and
Right.
from CD we have shifted to a DVD. But coming to CD, we had a floppy where you used
Yeah.
to
Before
keep
that. Yeah.
only 1.38 or 1.52
Yeah.
MB of
MB.
data
Right.
in a floppy.
Right.
And now we have our phones with that much kind of a processing thing. So CD, DVD, from DVD we have gone to Blu-ray. The transition is happening, but
Transition
are
is.
we looking at, we are also pushed to those levels, but do
Hmm.
we have the capacity to work out?
Right.
Our human brain is very complex, we accept that, but it
Right.
also needs time. There are
Hmm.
different networks being created, right? Being a science, from the science background, I'll say our networking thing also creates.
Right.
And from those generations, we come from a generations where we played on the field, we
Hmm.
fought. Gilli danda khel lo, goli khel lo, kho kho. You have volleyball, football, everything being played on ground, making ourselves dirty.
Right.
So there was a physical stress to take care of your mental stress.
Right.
Now the thing is, everybody's playing all these games on a PS2 or a PS4.
Right.
So there's a digital adoption happening.
Hmm.
When we fought with our friends, we had a physical stress coming in. So due
Hmm.
to those physical activities, I'll not say stress, physical activities, there was more strain, and the cognitive skills and way to interact with persons were more.
Right.
So there was a bonding happening and there was a sharing happening. Now with the digital adoption,
Hmm.
people are looking at playing all those things on the system.
Right.
Then the people to people skills have gone.
Hmm.
The sharing and the caring has gone.
Gone. Right.
We have made humans
Hmm.
who are only humans, or humans without any emotions.
Right.
So, you can't, it's like taking your heart. You're working
Away. Right.
only using your brain.
Right.
Your heart is taken off.
So
Emotions is very
yeah.
critical.
So we can see, very rightly said, Edwin. I think this insight is very important for everybody who is working into HR domain, because we have polarized the entire approach of human being. We have just been identified with one organ, and that is our brain, and we definitely everything is processed in that. And hypothetically, we know that heart is a center of emotions, but the thing is like the entire what I can say, cutting the entire humanity into one square shape, wherein we are very uniquely designed to fit into the grander picture of the societal fabric. But unless and until we are not accepting that, we are going to make a lot of havoc, or a lot of pushback that would happen. And sometimes it is the pushback is of two nature. One is inward, that is implosive, and second is explosive. So a lot many people who are anxious, depressed are implosive. So I can see that a lot many depression, that when we say 40 to say 50% of people are depressed, anxiety is a common feeling that they have. They are more of an implosive nature, because they don't want to portray their frustration and anger towards other, because we are living in such a society which say that you have to be a good guy, okay, a good girl. And it is very rightly said into Lapata Ladies, what do you mean achhe ghar ka ladka and achhe ghar ki ladki, is like you never question. the authority, never question the status quo. And that kind of mentality is leading us to become a cynic in terms of psychological expression of our feelings. And we have really restored ourselves to digital life so much because we are scared as human beings to express ourselves. So that so we are looking for anonymity and an environment which would not directly point fingers at me, but I can express that. That's why you can see a lot of young people are going on social media and expressing their views. And so there are a lot of like discords. I think there is one application called as Discord. So there are people who are discussing lot many what I can say topics which are there. But understand when person actually intellectualize or intellectually handle their emotion. Okay, emotion has to be handled in terms of knowing what is the pain area. So when I have an emotion, I have a fear, anger. So that is a pain. There is some kind of, I can say there is a hurt that has been there. So we have to really adapt to that. And this is where the healing happens when we have a person who is trained into that particular kind of an outlook. Because we usually see that a person is crying or depressed, we'll always say, "Arey, don't be depressed. Go watch a movie. Ye le alcohol, ye pija, have this particular fix a band-aid kind of a solution." So this is all because we are trained into an environment which is really becoming more shun, more unexpressive, more of implosive nature. That's why this anxiety and depression are coming up. And when we realize this particular issue, we as an HR we have to understand that can we provide an internal environment to our employee? Because why? Because they are spending 12 to 13 hours with us, with a company. Okay, so can we at least make sure that the person who is returning back home, we will give him less stress. Okay, we will not cook him or brush him on the wrong side, or we will won't undertone कि उसको इतना चाबी नहीं भरी घर जाके he would keep on bashing everybody, or be implosive more, or he will go back and he will be like he would be just drenching him with alcohol or any other addiction. Netflix पे जाके बैठ गया and वहां पे हो गया. Don't be that environment which actually makes your employee more depressed. Be an environment which would give them certain kind of elements, like as you said, a safe space, achieve mental health champions, as you said, like encouraging stories where people have actually worked or triumphed over their adversities. Let's say people who have helped other people rather than KRA, like how much of your performance has been there, and we are appreciating them into RNR. Why don't we have R&R for people who are actually making a mental wellness as a priority? And that has been propagated into our organization. So as an HR, we have to also come with those awards, because usually we have to have that R&R हम category करते हैं ना कि the star of the month, the most innovative
Service
person, and all those
service
things.
awards and
Service awards.
traditional.
Yeah.
See, look at it not at and that's what I said. When people look at my profile, they are the HR are very traditional.
Hmm.
Come out of that tradition, come
Right.
and become more proactive.
Right.
Adding to your point, I have 5 to 6 pointers, like
Okay.
you rightly said, inclusive and exclusive outbreak of emotions. In my MBA, I studied a concept called as locus of control.
Very true. Yeah.
When the locus of control is inside, anybody talking anything about you, it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
When you have
Stephen
given that
Covey's.
control to
Stephen
someone,
Covey's influence circle of influence. Yeah. Great. Great.
I'll pick up points from my studies because I
Yeah,
always
that's
interact.
important. Yeah.
That's very critical. So that's the locus of control, how we place it. Next, you give example of China. I'll give you example of Japan. People sleeping in office they consider as accepted because they
Hmm.
think he has worked a lot for the organization. So
Right.
that acceptance has also come in.
Wow.
And I think I heard the terminology where people from the media industry or from the publication, I'm not sure which industry, they have breaks which are sabbatical breaks or creative breaks.
Oh, true.
They need that time to go back to some kind of another environment.
Right.
I'll give you examples for that is like Rajamouli or any of the greater directors. They take the
Mm-hmm.
break after their first project because
Right.
they have to come out from that sphere of the concept or that project itself. They have to come out, then only they can go to the next thing.
Right. True.
So
True.
do you live your own characters, or you
Mm-hmm.
come out of it and you
Mm-hmm.
give the next craft?
Right.
That's one pointer. The next pointer I'm looking at it is like as a HR, how do we empower and
Mm-hmm.
help fellow employees? So there
Right.
are I think there are 6 to 7 pointers I can think of. It's like one is like how can we create a peer support network?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I'll tell, like peer groups or mental health champions who can help out across for health thing. And I'll vouch it like the first responders are there, right, for any organization. So you should have health responders also to be part of this.
Right.
So next, first one is creating a peer support network. Second is fostering an open communication.
Mm-hmm.
You can either like you have pulse surveys, you can have some survey points so that we understand if there is any frustration or any emotional outbreak that needs to be handled. So an
Right.
open communication will facilitate for that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we as HR and the senior management has to openly come up and encourage participation in wellness programs.
Very true.
Then आपने कह तो दिया open wellness programs, then we need to also ensure there are proper we providing proper resources and training mechanisms.
Right.
And it should not be like training के लिए एक checklist 1 2 3 4. It
Mm-hmm.
should have some return of investment. Are we looking at the stress levels getting reduced?
Right.
Are we looking at any touch base points like the leaves are getting reduced or the
Right.
leaves are getting
Right.
increased, the retention, how are you correlating the entire data? The HR
Right.
analytics has to come in over
Right.
here.
So the metrics has to be developed. The metrics as far as means I had this particular podcast last month in which Brian is one of the leading who makes wearables which actually detects stress in your body, calibrating the biomarkers that really defines what are the different hormones that are circulating in your blood. The same thing that we do blood work for ourselves, where we say in glucose, hemoglobin or other elements which have to be into prescribed timelines,
Yeah.
prescribed measurements. So they have created one of the wearables where you can wear it on your head and they would calculate 8 biomarkers which indicates what kind of stress, what is the level of stress, and what is the severity of the stress. That if you prolong to be into that particular environment, these things are going to happen without any improvement or reducing interventions. That can be through counseling, there can be medication or lifestyle changes. This is where because mental stress is something that can't be calibrated totally in in a physical appearance, because you have seen a lot of people who seem to be happy and cracking jokes, and those people are far more stressed, and you all of a sudden you come to know that person has committed suicide. So there are a lot of these cases. That Robin Williams that we know of, that the one of the most comic
Iconic.
actors, yeah,
Yeah.
and he was suffering from that, and he had committed an suicide. So we never knew. Like a lot of videos on YouTube, you will see that people like last videos before they committed suicide, and you would not even come to know that these people are going to such a immense pressure. So we need certain kind of, as you said, that we need certain markers, certain metrics, certain measuring the items that would be there, which can actually calibrate those stress that are there. Definitely, even if we are putting or pushing people into a lot of 12-hour shift, we have to make sure that it has to be reduced to certain things. So are we really giving them enough resources, training, and environment? So resource training and environment really work, because if you have resources, people can utilize. If you do the training, they would be more efficient. And the environment in which the management, as you said, that is acceptable in Japan, that people taking breaks, sleep breaks is acceptable. So are we really making those kind of environment, or even so, if we see somebody sleeping on his work desk, we will conclude कि ये ऐसे ही रहेगा. This is the guy who is sleeping a
सुधरने
lot.
नहीं
इसको
वाला है.
निकाल दो. Or even talking about your mental illness openly in your work environment would again give you a kind of a it won't give you an immunity towards being termed as an idle employee, and it would always looked at you as a liability. So that is where HR has a very crucial role in in creating that environment. Acceptance, as you rightly said, the acceptance of it is something that is really highly appreciated in terms of HR, and HR has to build that particular acceptance. It is not the management. The management would be very busy in strategizing their products. जो तो area जो उनका है, the area of HR and the leaders are totally different. But I think we have to convince that and that has to be supported by data, because management definitely would always speak in data. So there is a lot of data that has been there which actually talks, and there are a lot of scientific data. It is not only just data pulled from certain things, but it has a really replications that are there with highly stressed environment, highly stressed job. And uh, and it's a moral responsibility of the organization that we are going to जैसे कबीर की एक कहावत है कि चादर तूने दे दी मुझे, कि मैंने जैसी चादर थी वैसे मैंने पैसे फिर से लौटा दी. हाउ इफ यू गो टू गॉड एंड इफ यू आस्क कि भैया तूने किया क्या लाइफ में, तो जो आपने मुझे जीवन दिया था, आई हैव रियली लिव्ड इट वेल एंड गिव इट बैक टू यू. So I think it's a very moral responsibility. If you have an employee coming into your organization, yeah, if you're giving compensation, but are we really uh, giving that employee back to the society who is sensible, who is more responsible, who is mentally a bit well than what he was before coming on this job, or not the other way around? So I think the CSR activities that we do has a corporate social responsibility, but I think what are the internal responsibilities that an employer has to abide by? This is something HR has to educate them. Okay, we don't have to create an hostile environment for employer as well, but we can definitely, we are expert in understanding what are the effect of certain works of certain job in our HR field and how we can work on that. So this was the entire, I think, encapsulation. Edwin, if you want to add a bit, we can add, and after that, we can have a question from our listeners who are there. So Jeevan and
Perfect.
so they can put in
Pragat.
their question if they have any, and if not, then we can wrap up the session and we can call it a day.
Sure, perfectly. So after the resources and training, I will look at you had already touched base on that. That is
Mm-hmm.
recognizing and reward wellness efforts.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever is taking efforts to ensure there is compliance and detailing to that, how are we
Mm-hmm.
recognizing them? Because he will keep on doing it, but how we recognize, and then other people also become part of that journey. I'll take it example from movie. You do something good, you help somebody else. Let the chain go. So be
Mm-hmm.
mental warriors and keep on. We keep giving them recognition so that others also facilitate for ensuring they are part of that journey. That's one thing. Then we need to go to the management with data and how we are empowering our leaders to support wellness. So instead of like sick leaves or something, we can say wellness leave.
Right.
How we get it in proactive way, and then whoever is giving us feedback, we need to have a safe space for them,
Mm-hmm.
their privacy, and those things are also being taken care, and then that's not available in any common forum where there is any issue to the identity.
Right.
And then you had rightly said how we can promote work life balance.
Right. Great.
No,
So,
if you have like the manager itself is working 18 to 20 hours, gone, the one who is coming down under him will also become to that culture. So how
yes.
we can stop that culture?
Right. Right.
That becomes a challenge, because I have come, my first jobs were
Mm-hmm.
in those capabilities. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm used to working, so that becomes for me. But am I stressing more? That needs to be touch based. For my
Right.
own case, I need to look at it. And another thing I can take
Mm-hmm.
it is like there are different wellness verticals. When you had said about this topic, I did some research on that front. Like, we can look at physical wellness, emotional wellness,
Right.
social wellness,
Hmm.
financial wellness,
Hmm.
intellectual wellness,
Very true.
occupational wellness, environmental wellness, then spiritual wellness. So these are like the 8 dimensions to wellness.
Very
we
true.
we now need to incorporate our mental wellness and
Hmm.
also our digital wellness.
Very true.
How are we detoxifying, like managing our screen time, digital
Right.
detox, or healthy remote working habits, and how are we setting digital boundaries?
Very true. And I think that to add up to the digital wellness, I think Australia has recently introduced this no, right to disconnect. That after work hours, none of the WhatsApp group, none of the, that's not feasible right now. But if we are able to incorporate those, because that add up to a different stress level, as you rightly said, that definitely we have 8 aspect of wellness. But at least can we start with something simple called as not giving him more extra work? So are we able to implement a certain kind of digital detoxing or digital right to disconnect on certain days? Because I think not everybody have to be 24 by 7 on the screen or have to be connected. There are to be certain points where people supposed to have their private life. So are we really making those kind of efforts where in through policies? I would say through policy. Why? Because I think policy gives that particular legitimacy, that they have that right to go back and talk to the person that, okay, this is what is there written in a policy. I would be just responsible for this. And that is a very natural way of doing it. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing that as a company, as an organization, we are back. It is just that we are providing them something that they are rightfully, naturally they are abided to or eligible for. So that is really important because digital wellness is something that is also adding up into a lot of stress because we have to work in multiple screens. Like once you are from your laptop, you have to go to your mobile phone. Sorry. So then you have to have times when you are like, so you have seen this particular pictures in which if you are into an family function, then also you're constantly looking at your mobile phones. Okay. And in case of Anna Sebastian, she was not able to go to her, meet to her parents when they're into other room. They have to, she has to stay into the room to just to attend that call. And we know how calls are in certain organization. There are so many meetings, which are 90% of those meetings are really not productive. So if you talk about why it is said, and this has been said by Elon Musk, if anybody want to follow him, and if he can do it, if when he says that 90% of our meetings are ineffective and we are spending and wasting our time, because that is a billable hour. We have to understand another thing, that is a billable hour. So even if you are reducing on meetings, people can go back to their work and concentrate more. So why the meetings are so ineffective? Because we don't have, meeting skills. We don't have skills in order to put our points in such a concise and well manner that people are able to understand in first go, and that can be done. So there are a lot of aspects. I think, Edwin, we have really gone into a lot of areas which has been not been talked on. There are a lot of tabooed areas. The inclusion sphere is one of the biggest sphere in India because we come from such a diverse background, and that demands a lot of introspection, a lot of refinement in terms of policy is concerned. When we say inclusion is our fundamental or part or core value when we talk about company, so we have to see inclusionness on a very granular level. That is where we have to talk on. Secondly, we have to see that how well we are celebrating mental wellness within our organization by appointing champions, appointing trainings and sessions, appointing awareness campaigns that are there, okay, within our organization. Are we really going ahead into the market and searching for insurance company which give group insurance, which include mental wellness as a part of their insurance scheme or not? So on that level, we have to work on. Are we even making mental breaks or mental wellness leaves as a part of our leave policies or our procedural policies? So that is one thing. Then the third thing is like our infrastructure, our workload, KRAs and the JDs, are those developed in such a way that actually accommodate mental wellness? Are we reducing those many hours of work so that people can have little bit life work life balance, because we usually have this particular partner work life balance hona chahiye, and we don't have a switch. We carry the same stress to our home. We can't have a switch कि मैंने ऑफिस का स्विच बंद कर दिया, I will go home, I will relax.
वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस करके टॉपिक ही नहीं है, देयर इज नो वर्क
नहीं
लाइफ
है.
बैलेंस.
So there is
It's a
just
very thin
your
line.
just life. It is just life. It is just work life management. I won't say balancing. It is management. How you manage it.
Management.
So that is where I think a lot of and I was really amazed that you were well prepared with what you know about this particular psychological aspect, because very few of us are even reading anything apart from our how HR policy has to be there, because coming from that background you also know about certain psychological aspect. I was really amazed because HR has to be like a scientist. If you are going to be someone who is going to propel and be ambassador of mental wellness, you're supposed to have knowledge from all the spheres, and that's what makes us that's why this particular profession makes it very challenging, because we have to change so many hats. A person from a production line, he has to only work about how the production lines would be there, what are the products, what are the product limitation. But when it comes to human is so dynamic. One benefit plan would be translated to another human in a totally different way. So that is where we have to see in. So that is where the challenges lie. And I think as a fraternity, when we come along and we can, club together to find a solution, definitely there would be. Because I see a lot of HR fraternity are working in silos, the so-called silos of their own comfort zone. And everybody is. But I think when it comes to mental wellness, we have to club together. We have to come up with this kind of an discussion. We have to come in with kind of interventions that we can develop together, policy, let's say policy wise, labor laws wise, or whichever. Those are best practices that we can incorporate, and we can form that common bridge between the employees' need and the employers' need. And this is where the real work would happen in the generation of AI. When I say that AI is also taking away HR job right now. So we have to be very much aware of this fact that what would be the next frontier for HR professional or the HR fraternity is becoming an advocates of human resource. And mental wellness being the cornerstone of that, definitely we say that AI would take everybody's job, but at the end, the person who would be steering AI would also be human. So we have to really work on that. So that is one thing that I wanted to, sum up from my side. I think our listener, if they have any questions, we can take any questions. If not, then we can wrap up this session.
I'll add few things
Uh-huh.
with your permission.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
sure, sure. We
Uh,
have next two
See,
minutes. So if
AI.
you, uh,
Yeah, yeah. If you want to discuss for the entire day, I'm open. There's nothing
we can have more
like that
series
because
on
it's
this. I
very
would love to do that.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, because there are different wellness verticals into it.
Mhm.
Now, the challenge with the HR is anybody can be a HR. That's the
Yeah.
background to it.
True.
When an engineer becomes a HR, there's a different perspective, because from my engineering, I look at every problem, I look at it like a flow chart, how I can
Hmm.
break it down into a smaller problems, and I
Right.
usually take at it like a RCA. What's the root
Hmm.
cause analysis to it?
Hmm.
So from the engineering background, that comes in. And when a HR is from the financial background, he looks at it at numbers and everything, and then there's a financial
Cost.
perspective to that. So now HR playing multiple roles. Another issue is our society has not put in mental well-being or anything as a part of the curriculum. When I
Hmm.
was a kid, we had social morals, social things, books, and everything. Moral science was there as part of the
Right.
thing. So we had
Hmm.
interaction with the people. Now that is not there. I have a kid who doesn't have a moral science subject in his second standard. So I was
Understood.
looking at what morality is the college or the school going to teach them.
Right.
That's one perspective. We
Mm-hmm.
have now, we say we are very open and diversified. We still have women colleges or women schools or no co-eds. I still
Right.
have that things happening. So when
Mm-hmm.
a person comes from a, an environment where there is no communication, it becomes a challenge. So do
Right.
they open up? When they come
Mm-hmm.
to a corporations, then there is male, female, third gender, that's a challenge we are putting
Very
it
true.
to our next
Mm-hmm.
generation. Now another thing you added was the digital divide and the mobile detox.
Mm-hmm.
We used to know our friend's number earlier. Now even I don't remember a lot of my friends number, because
True.
you have a phone with us and then that takes care of it.
Right.
So are we limiting the phone talks and meeting them in person? It's a well to do, but your
Right.
family has to accept.
No, that's rightly said. As we talked about rest, there are eight types of rest, as you said. There is a social rest, there's
Yes.
a creative rest, there is a rest when you do certain kind of catharsis. All those things are there. It is not only restricted to sleeping for 8 hours. So
Yes.
when you look at this particular aspect from a very detailed and a kind of a curiosity kind of an standpoint, it gives you a lot of different ways and different methods in how you can handle one emotion that is there into human being, and that this opens up a lot of wider spectrum for HR to evolve into. I see when we have this particular discussion wherein we say that AI is going to take our jobs. They are going to take our tactical jobs. They are not going to take away what it means to be human. Because in HR, you have to be more humanized way of handling it. We can take AI as a companion where he or she can, or the AI can do the tactical work. But understanding those particular, how that particular one step would be formulating a emotional outcome or a response, that is more important. So this is where I think, Edwin, we have really summed up lot many aspects. Not summed up, at least we have started a conversation in which
We
direction.
require part 2, part 3, part 4.
Yeah, part four. Because I think this particular conversation would go on, and I think because the kind of knowledge that we have amassed in our following experience that is there, and it can't be encapsulated in 1 hour of a session or any session that is there. But I would definitely, whoever is listening to this particular event, I want them to get on this particular sharing community. We can formulate a community which can talk on this, because I feel there is a urgency in terms of HR evolution as well, of role itself, and as a streamline of career as well. Because HR can't be someone who is going to do only tactical things, because for that AI is coming up. But what would be the next role of HR? That is something that has to be talked on. So that is where our next
You
episode
want
would be.
me to say something on that? Because I have content for that also.
No, I would definitely invite you for the next, because this is where I have to give them an Easter egg. What our next session would be. It would be about
Yeah.
also developing HR. We have to see in that it is a very joke, and the same like Rangoli joke that they do for HR. They always say that if HR is into HR, why she or he is not able to find a job for herself or advancement? वो वहीं पे होते हैं. They have a recruitment plan, but they're still there. But I think rather than that, I think we have to really see in that how we as an HR fraternity can help each other to evolve in that particular phase. So that is very important. So this would be our next venture in which, Edwin, I would invite you again, and I will definitely see in that if any of the expert that is there who can join us, and we can have a very good discussion, and we can come up with what would be the future way for HR in AI. Okay, AI phase of era. In era of AI, what is the future of HR? That is something that I'm looking at for. So great. I think
Perfect.
this session has been really very insightful for me. I was able to jump on a lot many topics thanks to you, Edwin, because I think the knowledge that you bring in, the insight that you bring in, has actually pulled me also to talk on those particular topics which are really not discussed in most of the forums that are there. And I am happy that this event has happened. Thank you for you that you are there in with me. I think there is one question that has come in at the last moment. I will take this question. So this is from Jiva. He's saying that how an HR can organize a mental wellness policy and a program, because in today's organization itself, uh, have a lot of diverse employees. So I think we have covered that. The program have to match different generation people working for different cities and different gender with positive effect on everyone. Yeah, definitely, Gio, a very valid question. I think The diversity itself, as I was talking in the session, that the more the diverse it is, the more customized we have to make it. We can't have a cookie cutter methodology in India to answer a certain mental wellness, because every language have a different dialect, different depth,
Dialect.
different cultural references. So if I want to talk to a person from a South India and he have a cultural reference to all Rajnikant movies, I can't pull up a Hindi movie and give that reference just to talk on a common grounds. So we have to see in that, are we able to marry those particular aspects or references? Because everybody works in referential points when it comes to cultural addressing issues of mental wellness. Because whatever in Maharashtra, we have a lot of charoris and dohas and all those things. Very few people are able to associate if they have all read and have that association. So to answer your question, Jiva, we really have to, as a fraternity, we have to come in and we have to see in that which it is all trial and error as we have done in past. We know that, but we have to be very vigilant about it. The thing is, kya ho jata hai na, we just do it as a checklist activity. Problem, what is the problem? We do it as a checklist activity. We don't look at what is the pre and post effect of that particular intervention that we have done. So usually for stress management, when I go for stress management sessions, I usually have this echo points after 90 days, or any behavioral training that I do. After every 90 days, I have a kind of an echo point where I talk with the participant and the manager who have nominated them for the training, that what was the effect? Were you able to see the effect? And if they were not able to see the effect, then we go for the root cause analysis, as Edwin said. What was the problem? Was the resources not provided? Was the skill set not administered? And the third aspect that is there, the environment. Did the manager provided the environment to practice those behavioral skills what they have learned into workshop? So now what happens now? This is where when you have an intervention, the addressing those particular intervention has to be very scientifically addressed. As an Indian, we lack in scientific approach because the sentiment is not there. I think once the sentiment is built, and that is another bigger topic. If I Edwin, if you know that, yeah, that is another bigger topic where we have to come to one conscious conclusion, not a conclusion, but I think inclusion, right? Not the
Inclusion,
conclusion,
yes.
but the inclusion. So that is where we have to bring in. So this is where that thing is there. So Edwin, if you want to answer the question that I have answered, other than my point, any point that you have.
Jiva and Pragalti are my mentees from a college. So I
Okay.
told them to attend, so they are attending. So thank you for that. So
Okay.
Jiva's questions I'll answer is like,
Hmm.
in sales there are three things: want, need, and desire. So what is your want, what is your need, what is your desire? That is one thing. So HR is has to be like a salesperson to look at what all things is required from the employee side. And another thing is, as India, our Abhijit has already told, we are very diversified and we take pride in saying diversity in inclusion.
Hmm.
On paper it looks very good, but on implementation it's a bigger challenge. Because when you look at Maharashtra itself, you will have different Marathi slangs, different dialects. When you look at Tamil Nadu, you have some slang at Nagarkoil, you have some different slang at Madurai, Tirunelveli. Chennai also have like north and south Chennai, the slangs are different. So but simple, at a base level, if you want to go, want, need, and desire, that's one way to look at it. Another thing is Maslow's theory of needs: basic needs, psychology needs, and everything. So look at your employees from their perspective, what is their need, what level they fit into that need, and then make a system to that. Best example I can give some kind of inclusion is, when you are an organization in India having multiple branch offices across India, you will have different leave approvals or different leave uh, applicable to different people. Like for example, in Chennai and in South India, you will have Pongal leaves more, you will have Diwali leaves more in North India because they
Right.
will have the Bhai Dooj and all those things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Very true.
we have to look at inclusion at that perspective level. At
Very
the
true.
ground level, you need to start implementing it.
Mm-hmm. So I think being aware of the different diversity that is there in India and formulating policies as per as those, because we have this particular ये है ना law के in our mind जीवा that एक policy बन गया, then there won't be any reform, there won't be any amendment, but even Bhagavad Gita also say at the end that this is just the beginning. Okay, at the end of Bhagavad Gita. So this is just the beginning. It says that there should be amendment as per as it has to be contemporary, okay, and relevant. So when we are saying contemporary and relevant, that means we have to include everything. When we say inclusive, we have to see in what are the societal progression that has happened in terms of culture, in terms of value sets, in terms of everything. So that's where HR job becomes more challenging, or any person who is handling people, even if it is a marketing team or sales team, definitely you would be having people, and you have to recommend that. You have to know the pulse of your people, because understand every person operates on emotions. Okay, so anything that is there at the core of it, it is an emotion. Every product you will take example of Apple, it is not a product, it is an emotion. So everything is coming to an emotion, because subconsciously we are operating on 75% to 90% on our subconscious mind, which is driven by emotions. So when you see a person who is be there, so you have to see in that the what the translation of that policy. Like Edwin said rightly that are, if I'm working into South India, I have to consider Pongal as the as a leave mandatory सबको होना चाहिए. Though I am coming from a North Indian parent company. Okay, North Indian parent company में South में I am operating. I have to make sure that this leave is going to be applicable on the ground level. You have to see. That's why HR don't have to sit into office. He has to roam around. He have to see in what the culture is. So it happens from you, Jiva. So when it comes to this particular diversity, you have to be very sensitive. And as Edwin said rightly that nobody can become an HR. Okay, HR का क्या होता है ना कि if anybody who's coming from a financial background, he will always attach a value to a human being. Anybody coming from an operational point standpoint, he will say कि how he would be technical and procedural accurate. Perfection कहाँ से आता है? So that is wrong. You have to see human as a human, the reality of it. Okay, उसको reality में देखो, not in terms of, not with the lens of finance, not in the lens of operation, not in terms of marketing, and then try to fit him into that particular position. Then it is a different story. I hope I was able to answer your question, Jiva. Okay, Edwin has given a thumbs up.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, good, good. Thank you, Jiva, for your contribution. So, any other question? Uh, Pragal Thi. Am I
Pragalti.
saying?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. Since we talked about being inclusive, it is said that हम लीडर्स को फॉलो करते हैं. हम
Mm-hmm.
हम हमारा जो रिजल्ट है वो लीडर्स का है.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to inclusion, if leader is being inclusive, is it like his followers will also be inclusive or like that, sir?
Okay. So, do you got the question, Edwin? So,
So, and
Pragal?
I also was little thing like if the leader is complying, everybody will comply. I think Pragalti, to look at that solution is like if the top-down approach is good, when the leaders itself foster inclusion, everyone down everyone down the line will have a proper detailing to that.
Mhm. So, to just add up to this particular question, the same rightly said that uh, the cultural aspect, it actually starts from above to down. It is never from down to above. So, yes, leader, when we appoint leaders, okay, that is very important. So, you have right to vote, definitely. So, always see, is the leader inclusive? Okay. So whenever you go to a company and if you're working as an HR to a company, you have to have this open conversation that what is the philosophy of the leaders in that particular part. Okay. None of the leaders was also, because कैसे होता है leaders की भाषा means what is the language of the leader. Leader will always see कि how much of profit is going to be there, how much of money I'm going to derive. But अगर if you are able to see that happy people bringing lot of money, happy people are more productive, ऐसा अगर आप बोलोगे, so now the leader would be in that particular part that he will say that yes, to make them happy, what I would do. This is the language that you have to try and communicate with the leaders when they are not inclusive. And when people, the followers who are not inclusive, then you have to make them aware that if you are not inclusive, you are going to get divided and rule.
right? Inclusion यानी क्या है? What do you mean by inclusion? It means that there is a strength when you are united. Okay. So if the follower is not inclusive, you have to make them aware that inclusion is power. You can't start dividing people on your level as well. When you are making friends, don't make only friends of your area, or people who are speaking your language. Include everybody in that particular group. So there are two way towards it, and then you are going to collectively demand for those particular policies with your management. I know that today, in today's world, the unionization of private sector is not there. We are That is one of the most important part that has to be formulated. I think the future leader, you guys, Jiva and Pragalti, are from HR background, or they are from some other background?
They are into the HR background.
HR background. So as an HR, so good, you are from our fraternity, our blood. So this is where, as an HR, we have to make sure that we are making a unification of that. We are going to be the union for them as an HR in that particular organization. I know it's hard because we are on their payroll, but I think like Krishna Bhagavan in Mahabharata. Okay, Krishna Bhagavan was very good at convincing Kauravas and Pandavas. Okay, he was not directly saying it. He has that particular knack. He was a bridge between all of this. And what he has propagated in that bridge, what is a win-win situation for everybody in that particular process. Definitely everybody has killed them each other, but that was important at that point of time. So to take and reference from that point of time, as an HR, you have to always be a bridge. Never burn a bridge. Bridge has to be a two-way communication. So if you are becoming a one-way traffic bridge, then you are not a bridge itself. So it's a very moral responsibility as an HR that you have to convince to your leadership that what kind of effect it would have if you don't have an inclusive nature. That is the picture that you have to give. You can give it through different kind of studies, factual information, productivity reports, which has affected because inclusion was not included into their organization. Those information has to pull out and given to them. All right. So you have to prepare yourself more in order to propagate that message to your leadership and to the follower as well. So I hope, Jiva, Pragalti, I was able to answer your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thanks. All right.
Sorry, sir, I couldn't complete my question because there was a noise.
Okay, but I think the question was the same. This is what the question was: leader to
Yes,
followers,
sir. Yes,
particularly
sir.
in inclusive nature. Okay, okay, great, great.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Thank you,
all
sir.
right. Thank you. All right. I think so. We are done with the questions. Great. I think Edwin, what a session. What a discussion. What kind of insight. I'm really thankful that this discussion was there, and there are a lot of valuable nuggets that we were able to pull out from this particular discussion. A lot of insight, a lot of material and content for the forthcoming events that we are going to organize, and definitely there will be a lot of insight that would be also deriving from that. And Jiva and Pragalti, thank you for joining us. Thank you for asking this question. This has actually made our conversation more enriched. And we will definitely see that next session, that whatever would be based upon what are the findings. And as I told to Edwin, it would be on the role of HR in the age of AI with human aspect. How are you going to see that particular part? So we'll be coming up with that. And thank you all for joining in. Thank you, Edwin. This was a great
I would like
session.
to thank Abhijit for giving this opportunity, and kudos to you for having the vision behind, like, the Wisdom Seeds vision towards facilitating and fostering mental well-being of employees at a broader spectrum. And I would also like to thank my organization Anubavam for imbibing the cohesive culture which we comply with.
Great, great. Thank you, Anubhav. Thank you, Anubhav, as well, our company, because I think that is way where we have came into contact. And thank you, Edwin, for coming across on platform. And even Jivan and Pragalti, if you have any questions that you want to ask, or any of your colleagues, that discussion that you can bring in, Uh, Edwin and me are there to answer those questions in our capacity, definitely. And we can also make a
Sure,
lot
sir.
of, yeah, we will also going to make a lot of podcast and course materials and resources, which would be very helpful for your journey into HR domain to reach to those height which are really required in today's time. So thank you so much,
Yes,
guys,
sir.
for everyone, and let's meet for the next podcast as soon as possible. So have a great Sunday ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.